Hey there. This is going to be an exciting video for me, another one. If you watched the original rebuild of the Chevette, it was been a winter, year and a half ago, 2 winters ago, let's call it, I put in a Sinco Tech DO-909 digital racing dash, China's finest in digital racing electronics. And it's been really cool. I really enjoy the unit. It works really well. And in all honesty, I've dealt with iSpeed a little bit about an issue that I had, and they've been extremely helpful, really great to work with. They reached out to me about that video in appreciation for doing it. They enjoyed it. They got a kick out of the humor. They understood everything was lighthearted, which is good because it is. But they followed up by asking me if I'd be interested in checking out their latest addition to their digital race dash lineup, and this is the DO-909. This thing is a touchscreen. It's a full color 7.5-inch display. It's got multiple displays and interfaces. It's got full telemetry, and it'll data log for you. Just like the 908, it will measure speed, RPMs. I got water temperature, oil pressure, boost and vacuum, exhaust gas temps, and air to fuel ratio. So it's got everything you need all in one. Now, I believe this unit isn't even available for sale yet, so I couldn't even give you a price point on it, but if it's anything like the DO-908 and the other digital dashes they have, you're not going to beat the price for what you're going to get. So I'll put the link down below to the other videos I've done about the Sinco Tech products that I have experience with. They're super cool, especially for what I do, because not a lot of people are doing this in my application. But follow along. I got to put this in the car, and then I'm going to try and give it a run through and check out how it works. Let's check it out. Let's see what's inside the box.
All right, so inside the box is another box, and inside that box, there it is. So there's our display. It's a pretty big unit, fairly thick and robust. So this is kind of your control module, so all your sensors will plug into that, and then there's like a bus cable that plugs in from the unit to the display. We've got instruction manual. That one won't do me any good, but that one will. There's a USB cable, and then all your various hardware for installing the sensors. That's your connector for the display unit, mounting hardware. It comes with your tube for your boost controller. These are oil pressure sensor right there, and here you've got temperature sensors, little filters for your boost. That's your boost sensor there, and then your various wiring pigtails. So everything you need. The only thing this unit doesn't come with is the actual O2 sensor. I used a factory GM O2 sensor. It's just a 3-wire narrowband O2 sensor on the unit. It will work on this one exactly the same, so that's what I'm going to use. And everything else you need is here to have a fully functioning informative dash. Time to put it in the car. So here's the original unit as it sits in the dash. Just as a size comparison, you can see the screen difference. So this is gonna go something like that. This is gonna be a tight fit, but I'm gonna try and reuse the same dash panel, then I don't have to drill a million switch holes and all that fun stuff. So I'm just gonna go ahead, pull this out. So this is the rat's nest of wiring. I never generally show anyone, but I had this unit just mounted up underneath the dash, right? This is the new unit. They're the exact same casing, different internals, of course, but for my installation purposes, it's just a matter of plugging all these wires into here, mounting it back up, and it's done. How awesome is that? So keep in mind when you're installing the interface module that it's direction specific. So if you want the telemetry to work properly, instructions state that this side here with all the electrical connections should be facing the front of the car. So if you want that to all work properly, that's the way you got to put it in. Fortunately for me, it'll actually bolt right up. This is where it sits underneath the dash. The existing mounting holes are going to work perfect. So I'm just going to slam it in there. That part of it's done. All right. I got the whole new unit installed. I built a whole new dash for it. It needs a little bit of work yet, but it's in there enough to try it out. Anyways, I did hook it up just all loosely before I slammed it in to make sure it would work. So it's not the first time I'm firing it up, but it's the first time you guys are going to get to see what it looks like. Let's check it out. So there it is. This is one screen. So like I said, there's 4 different screens. So this would be your typical streetcar screen. You've got your speedometer here. You've got a tach. You've got an odometer, your trip odometer. You've got coolant temperature and oil pressure. So the basic necessities to know what your engine's doing. So this is all touchscreen. So if we skip ahead, we get more into the detailed stuff. So here we got 6 gauges displayed. We can change those to whatever we want just with the touch of a button. You got your tach, oil pressure, water temperature, oil temperature, EGT, and air fuel mixture, right? You can change them up if you wanted boost pressure. You could have your boost pressure, voltage. It'll tell you what your voltage is at. For what we're going to be running, this is kind of what I'd like it set at. Just so you know, or just so I know what else is going on. Next fitting, so this is basically just 3. So you got a big tach, and again, you can change that to whatever you'd want, right? Water temp, you can change that. Maybe you want to know the push of a button what your boost and what your voltage is. You can just skip right over to the next page and you're good to go. And then on the last page, this is where it's got your telemetry. So your lateral G-forces, I guess, in relation to whatever you'd like. Speed, RPMs, temperatures. You can change that all again. And then it'll graph it here for you as well. Up top here, so you hit that. That brings you back to your home screen. It's pretty neat. It'd be nice if you could change that. Maybe you can. I'd have to ask. But either way, you've got all your different options here in the home screen. So under your settings, you got your language settings, your speed settings, temperature settings, and all your gauge readings, right? So down here, this has got your LED display. So up here, these LEDs, if you want to have them operate with your tach, you can. So you can have them as operating in a single row, where they'll just incrementally grow up in a straight line, or if you want them dual, similar to the old Knight Rider, they will come across and meet in the middle. So I've kind of went through, I had gone and set them up. You can set each individual light as to what color you would like it and as to what RPM you would like it. So they give you 500 RPM increments. The 908 did allow you to dial it in right to like a single RPM if you wanted to, which I kind of like, because I set the red line at 7,500 and I actually have the red line set at 7,400 on my box. So I guess we'll see if we ever clip that red line, if that red light ever shows. Otherwise I got to hit 7,000. So that's, if you want to get nitpicky, that's one thing to pick apart. So up here, you got your number of cylinders. That's for your tach. Speed calibration, I'll go through that. I'm going to try that again. In the previous one, like I said, I don't have a very good triggers pickup. We'll see what happens. And then here, what I like about this one, much better than the 908, is it's got an alarm setup on it. So you can set up, if you got speed, RPMs, you can set your alarm. You can set your alarm for water temperatures. So if it gets, I'll set it for 220. If it gets above 220, one of these lights on the side here will come on and it will beep at me, right? Same with oil temperature. I'm not even sure what a dangerous oil temperature would be, but oil pressure, right? If we want to set it, so there it comes on right now. It's beeping and it's got the light. So we know it's on. Voltage, yeah, see, it kind of goes by half volts. I'd prefer if we could dial it right into like a, say like an 11.8. That would be ideal. So alarms you cannot set, EGT, AFR, and boost. There's really no alarms to set for those. But now we're covered if we have something go sideways on us. So if we go back to our main screen here, you can see it's even got the little oil pressure dummy light in it. So that's pretty cool. Let's see what happens when we first fire it up. Alright, so I got the car warming up. I'm going to be able to take it out for a quick rip and check it out. First thoughts are it's pretty good. All the gauges seem to be there and reading properly. The tach might be a little bit sluggish. The digital delay in the tach might be a little bit sluggish. The 908 was as well, especially when the motor is unloaded. This engine revs really fast. And to be honest, I've never had a tach in this car that can keep up with the motor when it's unloaded. Once you get a load on the motor and it's actually running, it usually seems to work fine. So we'll see if that's the case here as well. But we'll find out once it gets up to temperature. We'll take it for a quick drive and see what it looks like. So that was a quick rip. I'm not quite sure how clear that was, but everything seems to work pretty well. That wasn't a very extended run, but I do really like it. The tach might not be for everyone. It is a little bit delayed. It's kind of choppy, I guess. The digital readout seems to be fine, but as it kind of rolls through the gauge, it's a little bit out. For what I do, it's not going to be that big of a deal, but it just might not be your preference. The display is pretty nice, so you can see it's got oil temperature and water temperature down there, right? It's hard to tell, but it even changes the colors kind of as it goes through. It's pretty nice. It's pretty clean. The mag sensor that I used for the original speedometer sensor clearly isn't working, so I'll address that later. Not that I need the speedometer, but I feel I should at least try and get it working to show people how it works. If these guys are going to go through the effort to send me a unit, the least I can do is try and get everything working properly on it. So I'll go through that in another at another time. Otherwise, I was kind of cycling through some of the functions as I was driving. They all seem to work fairly well. I couldn't tell you how accurate the telemetry is, but it is pretty neat. When you're on this screen, you can kind of see it does track the readings out for you, and that'll move up and down, but that seems to disappear. So the minute you leave that screen and come back, then it kind of starts all over again. So still a pretty neat feature to have if you're on a track, like on a road course track or something, right? So a couple of the other things I hadn't got into yet. On the main screen, so there's 3 other settings that we didn't go through. So there's the race setting. This basically does your 0 to 60 times. It's just a matter of hitting start. As soon as it senses speed, the timer will start and it will go. I won't really be able to test that one for you guys, right? This is a circle track dirt car. I don't even have a clutch in this thing. It is not meant to race from a standing start. So that one, if you are so inclined, you'll have to learn how to use yourself. But either way, it looks like it stores your previous times and keeps record of them for you. And then you got this graph here. So I didn't actually try this. I probably should have. I will at another time and see what it's all about. Again, I think it's just a matter of speed versus RPM, and in relation to, you can add your G-force meters in there and whatnot. And then the last one is the record. So I don't have a memory card in here yet, so we won't be able to try that, but I will in the near future, that's for sure. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
So that's about as in depth as I can get into this thing with you guys right now. It's getting late in the day. I got to get
wardrobe change. After editing the video, I got to the end and realized I forgot to say a bunch of the stuff that I wanted to say about it. So I thought I'd give you quick, just my pros and cons of this unit to this point. I haven't got a lot of experience with it. The pros, it's bright and easy to read. It's a really nice display, surprisingly nice display. You couldn't tell when I was driving it up and down the road because it was just kind of glaring off the reflection. But inside the car, you can see everything really clear. Doesn't matter if it's vibrating. You can still read everything, which is a big upgrade for me from the 908 for what I use it for. So that's probably the biggest and most notable thing for me. Gauges all seem to be really accurate, really responsive. The water temp, oil temp, EGT, AFR, even with the narrow band factory O2 sensor, that AFR seems to be right on par. Looks really good. It's got a real clean appearance once it's mounted. I had a tough time with the previous unit trying to get a clean finish around it, trying to recess it in the dash. This unit has a nice little lip around the edge, so if you cut yourself a nice hole, it just slides right in, mounts up nice and flush, looks really good. That's important if you're going to put it in. It doesn't matter if it's a $2,000 mini stock dirt car or a heavily invested street car. You still want that to look nice, and this one looks really nice when it's finished. The alarms, it's really nice to have the alarms in there, especially for what I'm using it for, being able to just focus on the track and then having visual indicators to tell me if something's going on. That's super important, and it's definitely an upgrade from the previous unit that I was using. And then it's a lot less wiring than having to wire in a gauge and a dummy light into your gauge package. So it's nice in that sense. And it just feels like a good quality unit. Without trying to sound like I'm pandering too much, it's for the price you're going to pay, the unit itself doesn't look and feel any less than a unit that might cost 4 or 5 times more, in all honesty. And I'd be more inclined to buy 3 or 4 cheaper units to one expensive unit, because that's kind of the way I am. I know not everybody's into the China's finest marketplace and online shopping and all that stuff, but I think you'd be pleasantly surprised if you experienced it compared to a higher end unit, right? The cons, and in all fairness, my hands were pretty dirty, but I was having a hard time with the touchscreen trying to find the sweet spots. I got pretty small hands. Somebody with big fingers might have a tougher time with it. But in all fairness, until I actually get to use it with clean hands and see how it actually works, it's kind of an unfair judgment. The tach, as I showed earlier, this engine unloaded revs really fast. It'll hit the red line before I can put my pedal to the ground if there's no load on the engine. But on the track, I feel it's going to work just like the 908. Did a similar thing. Even on the gravel road, it just cooks the tires. The tach keeps up. The numbers keep up. It's the little gauge-like display that seems to be a little weary. But the lights along the top seem really accurate and really functional, and I actually really enjoy that. And I'll probably use that more on the track than anything else. And then if I wanted to get really nitpicky, as I mentioned earlier, having more customizable intervals for the shift lights and for the alarms. Like I said, my MSD box is set to 7400, so I can't set that with the 500 RPM intervals. And same with little things like the voltage. You know, it'd be nice to be able to set it at 11.9 or 11.8, but with those kind of half volt intervals, you can't really do that. So it's little minor things like that. Couple weeks from now, it's the Mini Stock Super Nationals. I'm going to try and document my weekend with this unit and give you guys kind of like a real world, put it through its paces, put it through punishment that 90% of people that are in the market for this are never going to use it for, and see how it holds up. I hope this became informative to you, or entertaining at the very least. This one turned out a lot longer than I wanted it to, but it is what it is. I like to talk. I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, thanks for watching, and keep posted. Check below. I'll have all the information in the previous videos and then some links to information on this guy too. And ciao for now.